Right, hi guys. We are going to be making Victoria sponge in the video today, and I'm going to show you how I set up my workstation before I start and show you how I prepare all my ingredients, and then we're going to go ahead and do that. Right, so I've got all my ingredients ready and they've already been, it's all been weighed out, and I have got my tins ready and they're on the side. These have been greased, and I've put some parchment paper down the bottom. I have explained that in a separate video, so it will show you in more detail. I have a little dish for my utensils next to me, and unfortunately when I started this video the first time, this is the second time I'm starting it because something went wrong with my filming and it didn't actually film the first bit of my video. So I have weighed out, so that is also in a different video, weighed out all my ingredients. And guys, it's very important that your ingredients are at room temperature, not out of the fridge. Your cake will work, but to varying degrees of success if your ingredients are cold. So it's best to take your ingredients out quite a few hours before you intend on making a cake. And I will at a later date show you some tips for getting things up to the right temperature if you've forgotten to do that. I also have some fruit for the top of my sponge, but I'm going to be making a slightly different sponge, which you are welcome to make. We're still making the basic sponge, Victoria sponge, but I'm going to be using lemon curd for my filling to sandwich my cake together, and I'm going to be using lemon zest as well to actually make a lemon and fruit sponge. You can do that. You can change the filling up to suit what you want to or what you have at home. Now guys, unfortunately I showed you in the first half when my camera wasn't working how to zest your lemon. So I'm just going to do a quick recap because I've already prepared mine here. Because I'm making lemon sponge, and only because I'm making lemon sponge, I'm actually replacing the 3 tablespoons of milk with some lemon juice. And I'm also using the zest of the lemon because a lot of the flavor of the lemon is in the zest. So I have got a zesting grater, but you can also use the small side of your grater if you've the box grater that you have at home. So you can see just this very dark skin. The zest is what we want. We don't want underneath it. That's called the pith, and it's quite bitter, so we try not to get that. And you would literally just rub all the bits that you can see across your grater so that you're getting only the dark skin, and then you can clear your grater with that. And then to actually juice your lemon, guys, you never need especially, well, sometimes you do, but you can almost always find something else that does the job. So instead of having one of those juices that work like that, you can simply use a fork. And to be perfectly honest, this is most of the time of how I do it. Stick the fork inside, squeeze it. Now I don't want any more lemon juice, so I'm not actually going to do it, but you squeeze the lemon and you twist the fork at the same time, and then twist the lemon, twist the fork, and keep on doing that. And you can actually get more juice out of a lemon like that than you can with one of those twisters. Well, with less effort anyway. So that's how I did the zest. And now we're going to move on to making the cake. Right guys, now I'm lucky enough to have a stand mixer, and that's what I'm going to be using to make the cake today. But you can use a handheld mixer, you can use your hands and a wooden spoon, but you are going to need to have quite a bit of strength behind you to use to make everything by hand. But I'm going to use my mixer because I'm lucky enough to have it. I also have a little hand mixer, which is absolutely fine for this and will save you a lot of time. The last thing that I'm just going to show you guys is how to measure out baking powder. Now, it's one of the things that I get asked about, not asked about, but a lot of kids and a lot of students do this incorrectly. So you might have noticed that on the top of your little baking powder box, there is a flat area here. Now, what that is for is when you get your teaspoon measure, it says a teaspoon, you are going to get your baking powder in it, make sure that the baking powder is all the way along, and then you can simply drag your spoon along that flat edge so that you get a level teaspoon of baking powder. But if you don't have that and you have a different kind of baking powder or a box, all you need is a flat or a straight edge. And you are simply going to scoop up your baking powder, make sure that it's in all the little, and then simply scoop and level off your baking powder. So you have a level teaspoon of baking powder. And guys, that is a teaspoon of baking powder. So often I've seen people just take a normal teaspoon and then use a heaped spoon. I have found more often than not that things go horribly wrong. So please, when you're measuring out your baking powder, do it accurately. I'm also using self-raising flour today, but if you've only got plain flour, I will put a ratio for you for how much additional baking powder you will need to use if you're just using plain flour. Hi guys. I'm sorry. My oven's fan is very, very loud, so I'm hoping that it's not going to be too much of a problem. But I've got my bowl in front of me, and today we are going to be doing the creaming method in year 7. The all-in-one method. In year 7, you did the creaming method when you made your lemon slices. So the all-in-one method is exactly what it says on the tin. You are going to put all your ingredients into your bowl. Right, so I've got my self-raising flour with my little bit of additional baking powder, and that's going to go into my bowl. I'm going to put the sugar in. Oh. And then I'm also going to start breaking my eggs, but I'm going to show you how we're going to break the eggs. Right, we always have a separate bowl to crack our eggs, and the reason we want to do that is so that there's quite a few reasons, but the main ones is so that if any of the eggshell breaks off, we can fish that out before it goes into our cake, because we don't want crunchy eggshells in our cake. And the other reason is if the egg is bad, but guys, it's very rarely happened to me. We also want to make sure that our eggs are in date and that they have got their stamp on them, but I normally do that when I buy them. Now, there are two ways in which you can crack your eggs. You can crack them with a knife, and you simply give them a sharp tap, put your thumbs in, and then pull gently the two sides of the eggs apart. And once you've got one cracked, that's going to go into your bowl. You are then, and the second way is on the side of the bowl. But guys, if you do this, please make sure that you are holding your bowl and that you have got a ceramic bowl, or you can do it on the side of your metal bowl. But please make sure, hard, sharp crack, pull it apart, and off you go. And you're going to do all 4 eggs like that. And guys, I'm on my last egg, and I just wanted to show you this. If you can see, there's a little blood spot in the egg over there. Please don't be worried about that. That is actually part of the structure of the egg, and you'll learn about that later and what it is. So please, there's nothing wrong with it. You won't even know it's in your cake, so you don't have to fish that out. And that's going to go into your bowl as well. Right, we're going to add the butter in. And guys, remember that a sponge cake, your basic sponge cake, is always the same amount of everything. So 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of butter, and 100 grams of sugar. And it's normally, pardon me, about 1 egg to about 80 grams of flour, but I'll put the exact ratios down for you as well. You can also weigh your eggs. But the butter, and remember I said everything needs to be room temperature, or it's better for it to be room temperature. Now, I have got another video on this, but when you use your butter, it should be squeezably soft. So you should be able to make a dent in it, but it shouldn't be so hard that you can't make a dent in it, and it shouldn't be so soft that it falls apart. It should be in between. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. And my last ingredient that I'm going to add is my lemon juice with the zest, and that's going to go in. And I like having a spatula with me, so that I can get all the ingredients out of the bowls. Right, and now guys, exactly as it implies, you are going to mix this all in one go, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get my mixer set up for you. Right, so I've got my mixer set up, and I'm going to start that on slow, just to get all the ingredients combined. And then you can see once it starts coming together, I'm actually going to up the speed. I'm just going to stop that for a second because I'm going to carry on doing that, and I'll show you how what it looks like at the end. But what I want you to remember is that you don't want to mix this too much because we're doing the all-in-one method, and you want to scrape down your bowl halfway through, and I'm going to show you how to do that. The mix is going to make a lot of noise, so I'm just going to put that on. Right guys, so now you can see that it's a lovely color and it's all thoroughly combined. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to scrape down the sides using my spatula, and I'm going to scrape down the sides. I've got a plastic beater, so it actually is pretty good at keeping all the mixture down, but in yours, especially if you're using the hand mixer, please make sure that you scrape the mixture down. While I'm doing that, I'm also just going to check that all my butter and all my ingredients are incorporated fully and I don't have lumps. And I can still see I've got a few little lumps of everything, so I'm going to put it back on again for a minute, and then I'll show you the finished product. Alright, so I've got a lovely smooth cake batter here, and I'm not going to waste anything, guys. I really hate waste. I would much rather this was part of my cake than going down my drain. So I'm going to clean my beater, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to fill our cake tins. Alright guys, so this is our last step, and we don't want to delay this step. We don't want to keep this cake out of the oven for any longer than we need to. Once it's mixed, get it into your tins and get it into the oven. Right, so what I do with my mixture is we want it to be even, because we want our cakes to be the same, our layers to be the same. So what I do is I just make a line roughly down the center of my mixture, and then I take 1/2 and I put that, rough guys, all right, and I put that into my one cake tin, and then I do the same with the other half. And then once I've got most of it in, I have a quick look, and I can see that I've got more in this one than I have in this one, so I'm going to add a little bit more in this one. And if you want to be 100% accurate, you can actually weigh your cake tins before, so that you know how much your cake tins weigh, and then you can put the cake mixture in until they are exactly equal. But I don't do that. What I do when I'm baking for someone else, but I very rarely do that when I'm baking for myself. So I'm going to put a little bit more in that one, and a little bit more in that one. And guys, please scrape your bowls. I hate when fat goes down my sink, and it also blocks up all our drains and sewers. So please use your spatula and make sure that you are cleaning out the bowl. And the bottom, you use the bottom of your spatula. Have a nice bendy spatula, those are the best. And you make sure that your bowl is nice and clean, so that you've got all the cake mixture in your cake where you want it. Right, now the last step before you get it into the oven is to smooth out your cakes. And for that, I find it easier to use a spoon. Guys, please try and keep your mixture off the edges of your tins, because what happens is it cooks on the side of the tin, and not only is it difficult to clean, but it can also stop your cake from rising, because it cooks quicker, because the metal gets hotter quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the back of my spoon, And from the center, I'm just going to sort of circle out my cake so that I've got it evenly throughout the tin. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys, just so that you've got it into the edges of the cake pan and that it's as level as you can get it, because you also want your cake to rise level in the oven. Now, one of the tips or tricks that I use is I make the center just slightly lower than the sides, because that will give you a more even cake, because obviously your cakes do have a tendency to rise in the center before they well, they cook quicker on the outside, so the center rises up more. So if you make a little sort of hollow, not too deep, guys, it's literally just a little hollow, you will get a more even or a very gently rounded top. Right, and now these are going to go into the oven for about 20-25 minutes, maybe 30. Guys, you need to know your oven, and then I'm going to take them out and show you what they look like. Please make sure that you use oven gloves when you put them into the oven. Right, guys, so mine have just come out of the oven. They're still very hot, but I wanted to go over with you how you can tell that your cake is done without sticking something inside your cake. I really don't like it when people stick skewers and especially the tips of a knife inside a cake. So the first thing that's going to tell you that your cake is ready is your nose. So your nose will start to smell the cake when your cake is almost there. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the surface of the cake while it's still in the oven. If the surface of your cake is still shiny, it means it's still too wet and it's probably not done. So leave it in for a few more minutes. The next one is have a look at the edges of the cake, and when they start pulling away from the edge of the tin, it means that your cake is done, another indication that your cake is done. And then your last test that you can do is to simply just touch it. And if it leaves a fingerprint, obviously your cake is not done, it needs a few more minutes. But if it bounces back like a little sponge, it is done. So you've got all these ways of telling that your cake is done. You do not have to stick anything in a cake. So I'm going to leave these to cool down for about 5 minutes in the tins, and then I'm going to show you how to take them out of the tin. Right, guys, so I've let my cake cool in the tin for about 5 minutes, and now I'm going to take it out. And it's very important, especially when you're using non-stick pans, to not use any metal on your pans, because it does scratch them, and then that takes away the non-stick capabilities of your pan. So I have a little plastic palette knife that I use, but in school I've got little wooden or little plastic knives, cutlery, that I use for you, that I give to you guys to use. What you can use at home is exactly the same, a plastic knife, or just find something that is not going to hurt your tin. So I'm just going to very gently put this down the side, and guys, please don't angle it. Make sure that it's touching the sides of the tin, and you're going to do like a little sawing motion all the way around, because you don't want the cake to break or have cuts in the edges of your cake. So just make sure you go all the way around the sides. So you're going to do that little sawing motion, and then you can do a motion that is bigger once you've gone all the way around. Right, so now once you've loosened it all the way around, there are a few ways in which you can do this, guys. You can either take your tray and put it over the top and then flip it, but I find it's very unwieldy, and if you're not practiced at using that, very often the cake ends up on the floor. So this is the way that I do it. The other thing that you need to make sure is this is going to be the top of your cake. So this is what people are going to see. So you don't want all these little square bars making marks on your cake. So you want this to be the top. So what I do is I just take a tea towel, pop it over the top, because that's going to help us keep it together. I make my hand as big as I possibly can, and then I flip it over onto my hand. And my hand is resting on this, guys, so it's got enough support. And because we've lined our tin and we've loosened it, it's simply going to come free. Get that into some water, and then simply peel away very gently, guys. Don't rip it, because you can take off half your cake, right? And then I'm going to take my hand, or you can take another tea towel, and I'm very gently, do not just drop it, going to put my sponge down so that it's on the board. And I'm going to do that, I mean on the cooling rack. I'm going to do that with the other one. Right, so I've got both my cakes layers out of the cake tins, and now I'm going to leave them to cool down. They must cool down completely, especially if you're going to use anything like buttercream, or if you're going to use cream, because any heat from the cake is actually going to melt the butter in your buttercream, or it's going to melt the cream, and it's just going to be absorbed by the cake, and you're going to have a oily, sticky mess. So please, guys, this has to cool down before you decorate. So I'll be back when that's ready, and then I'm going to show you how to decorate your cake. Right, guys, now one thing I do want to change on this video, and I only realized it once I'd made the cake, is that I actually need to change the size of the tin on your recipe, and I think that it should be 18 centimeter tins that are used, because this the mixture spread out, it's a little bit too big. So I will change that on your recipes, but I can't change it in the video now, so I'm doing it now. Please make sure that you use an 18 centimeter tin, and I will put that on your recipes. All right, so now I've got all the things that I want to have to finish my cake, and I remember I've made a lemon one, so I'm going to put some lemon curd on the inside of my cake. Now I have put one layer on the cake, and I've left it just to soak in just a little. And now I'm putting on my second layer. So because I love a lot of lemon, and I just love the flavor, and all you're going to do is spread it like you would a sandwich, and I'm going to put in a reasonable layer. Don't spread it all the way to the ends, because the weight of the cake that you're going to put it on is going to push it to the sides, which is great, because you will have little oozy bits that come out of the side of your cake and make it look really, really nice. So that should do it now. And then once you've done that, I've got my other half of my cake here just on a tea towel so that the top doesn't get marked. And I'm going to very carefully place it on top and make sure that my cake is exactly placed on top. Right, and then to finish it off, this is how I'm going to decorate mine, but you can decorate yours any way that you want to, guys. Now I like putting fresh fruit on my cakes, and especially on a Victoria sponge. If I was just making a strawberry one, I might just put on strawberries only. I would you can halve some of the strawberries. So if we, sorry, I just had to go and get a knife. So you can halve some of your strawberries and pop those on the cake. You could, and just place them wherever you feel like. Don't be too prescriptive. You can put them in a pattern if you want to. So I want to put that one over there. And then I think we need something on the side over here, so I think I'm going to go for another little strawberry on the side. And just do that. And maybe one more. And have that one coming out like that. And another little one on the side here. So a lovely decorated cake. And the final little piece that we are going to do is we are going to sprinkle. Now you can do this just without the fruit and just sprinkle the icing sugar over the top. This is just plain icing sugar, guys, and I'm just going to sprinkle all over. And I've used a contrasting plate because I actually want to see some of the icing sugar on the plate, just because I think it looks pretty, but for no other reason. So once you've got a little layer of icing sugar over there, you're almost done. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap this over so I can show you what I'm going to do here, and then I will pop that onto the cake. So I've saved my biggest strawberries, and I'm simply going to cut it so that it's like that. And I'm not going to go all the way through, guys. I'm not going all the way to the leaves. I'm leaving it like that. And then if you push the strawberry gently, guys, don't push it too hard, and you just fan it out like that, and you can pop that on the side of your cake, on your plate to decorate it. And then if you wanted to, you could also put your serving knife on the side of the cake, so that you've got something that you're going to, you know, so that you've got the knife on the side of the plate here if you wanted to. Whoops, it's sliding a little. I'm just going to move that back. And there you have it, guys. Classic Victoria sponge. I've made mine with lemon, but you can fill it with strawberry jam, or you can fill it with anything that you like. Have a go, guys, and really try and put some effort into your presentation and think about your presentation. How can you make this cake look as beautiful as you possibly can? Have a go. I would love to see your pictures. You're going to have your pictures for your books, and I'm hoping to see cakes that look better than mine. See you soon, guys.